Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Should we save the Neiman Marcus flagship downtown? I don't know the details on what's going on with their lease, but apparently in that big multi-story flagship that they have downtown, there's more than one lessor. Isn't that what it's called? There's like a leasee and a lessor. And that's not really that unusual, but I don't know. Again, I don't know the details, but something's got complicated and they're not coming into an agreement. And so it's been announced that it was going to shut down. Well, within a few days, we have Dallas city leaders who are falling all over themselves to spend your tax money to make sure the luxury department store keeps their old, it's not even their original location. Their original location burned, and this was like the replacement for that. But it's a storefront that's been there for 18 years. It's been there since 1907. And so just because it's been there for over 100 years, we have to pay taxpayer money to save it? I don't get that. Well, don't listen to me. Let's listen to a few people. Jennifer Scripps, Downtown Dallas Corporation, or what's it called? Inc., whatever it is. Here's her rationale. Now, what I'm looking for as a taxpayer is, okay, if we give them money or if we help them, how do they pay us back? Is there a mechanism by which they pay us back? Is there other examples that you can look at where you told us last year or the year before that, hey, yeah, remember when we told you we were going to make this investment with your money? We did it, and here's how it turned out well. Like they had bought an old building that they were going to turn into like some mixed use / homeless shelter / something or other office space, and they're about to sell that building back. So that's what I'm looking for. Let's see if that's what we get. Jennifer Scripps.
Downtown Dallas Inc. And we are gathered here as a coalition. It's hard to imagine for any of us, and I know the same is true for you, that this place could be in danger of going away.
Why? How is that hard to imagine? See, I feel like I'm missing part of the story because she says these things like I'm just supposed to know. It's hard to imagine it going away. Not hard for me. I never go there. In fact, I've never been there. I remember visiting Dallas when I was in high school and like going past it and being like, oh, that's the original Neiman Marcus. Cool. But never actually going in there. I remember when I was hanging out downtown working quite a bit in my 20s, I would walk past it and I remember it'd be all decorated for Christmas. But you know what? I don't think I've ever actually set foot in there. And then I left town for a little over a decade and came back. And even since I've been back for the last 3-something years, I don't think I've ever set foot inside the downtown Neiman Marcus store. So when she says, well, I know it's impossible to imagine. No, actually, it's real easy to imagine. It hasn't been an important part of my life. Now, I've been in other Neimans. Heck, I worked in the Willowbrook Mall for a while. Yeah, I've been to Neimans. If I ever need some $260 jeans, that's the first place I'll go. But no, I can imagine life pretty easily without it. So just the weird premise that these people just think we all agree on, like it falls apart within the first 10 seconds.
And just last week, when we abruptly learned this news, we felt like it seemed premature. Losing Neiman Marcus would be more than just a store shutting down.
Why?
It's the loss of a historic landmark, a pillar of Dallas culture, and a symbol of the vibrancy that makes our city unique.
Can it be a pillar if I work less than a mile from it and I've never been there? And sure, it's historic, but we don't have to save everything historic. You know, there was the historic Waldorf Astoria in downtown Manhattan for years and years. Big, beautiful, ornate building, and they fought like hell to tear it down. And then finally, one day they did tear it down, even though it was ornate, even though it was historic, even though it had been there for like 100 years or something. But do you know what they built in its place? The Empire State Building. Something better, something progress happened. Yes, maybe that's good to remember that for 100-something years, this was the flagship for a store that, you know, founded in Dallas and, you know, has the Dallas cultural impact across the world. But that doesn't mean they need to keep that store forever. Before I get to some more audio here, I already got calls piling up. I want to talk to y'all. 800-288-9227 if you have any hot opinions on whether or not we need to spend your taxpayer money to make sure the Neiman Marcus flagship doesn't move downtown. Kathy in Grandview, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
No, don't spend our tax dollars there. How many people actually shop there? How many people will this benefit? I don't see a whole lot.
Right. And who is it benefiting? It's not benefiting the least among us. These are luxury retailers. This is something that of all the businesses and enterprises that we should maybe consider using taxpayer dollars to save, is there a worse one than a luxury retailer?
not in my opinion.
Well, then why did they go out and have these press conferences downtown this morning? Like we all agree, like, can you possibly imagine life without the Neiman Marcus downtown? Yes, I can. And look, I'm not just beating up on Jennifer Scripps here. Let's go to your Dallas city manager, Kimberly Tolbert. What does she think about saving the downtown Neiman Marcus?
And at first it felt like we were starting to plan a funeral without...
I'm at the wrong spot. Here it is.
This beautiful store is more than an iconic shopping destination. It is actually one of my favorite places to sneak away to after a long day at City Hall for just some beautiful retail therapy. And to have the opportunity to walk the store and look at all of the wonderful, amazing offerings that this store provides to our community.
Wow. Out of touch, right? What planet are you living on, Kimberly Tolbert, if you're trying to appeal to the everyday citizen in a metropolitan area of 7 million people? Very few of us get to duck out of work in the middle of the day for some retail therapy where we can just go look at a $106 t-shirt for funsies. No, that's not what we do. I'm lucky. I check my bank account before I stop at Dollar General on the way home. One of the 28 that I pass on the way home. No, we don't go to luxury retailers in the middle of the day during the work day for a little retail therapy. That's something I've never said unironically in my life. But they just say these things like, oh, it's a vital part. How is it vital? Downtown Dallas would collapse without the Neiman Marcus? Well, then maybe it deserves to die. But you say it's vital. The people out there, if there's not enough of them going in to support the store, then, the market decided it's not that vital. And the market was right. I know you people don't like the free market, but the market was right. You're wrong. The market was right. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And then once there's some news cameras show up, then people just kind of come out of the woodwork. Hey, I'm a public official. I didn't even know what's going on, but I saw cameras here, so I thought I'd stop by. Paul Ridley.
And during the Christmas holiday season.
Well, thank you, Kim. I'm honored to be here this morning. I just learned about this press conference a short while ago this morning, but I made a point to be here, and I'd like to do just this, emphasize the comments that have already been made by Jennifer and Kim about the importance of retaining Neiman Marcus to downtown.
Yes, I didn't do any preparation for this. I didn't even know there was a press conference that was going to happen. I saw some cameras. I got to stand in front of here, and since I have nothing prepared, I just want to emphasize the comments. That's just like going up to the podium and saying, what they said, ditto. All right, Mike in Louisville, hang on, I'll talk to you next. So what do you think? Do we really need, is it critical to the downtown Dallas area that we use taxpayer dollars to make sure Neiman Marcus doesn't lose its flagship? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Of all the stores and enterprises, is there a worse one than a luxury department store? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. See, this is why I like to do stories like this. Because I look on TV and every channel you go to says, Neiman Marcus flagship is vital to the vibrancy of downtown. If we lose that, it's a key part of what makes downtown so great. And it's historic. We have to have it. And I think no, but no one else is saying no on TV. And then I look at the newspaper and they love the idea. Let's just throw, how much taxpayer money can we burn at the altar of Neiman Marcus? And it's not that I don't like Neiman Marcus. Hell, they got great clothes. I wish I could afford to shop there more. Or ever. Who am I kidding? I don't think I've ever bought anything from Neiman's. But it's not that I dislike them or I wish ill upon them. But if they make their own business decision, like the amount of money that this store generates versus the garbage we have to go through to maintain this rent or this lease setup, it's not worth it anymore. Well, I think that's Neiman's decision to make, and whether or not the taxpayers get involved is a no-brainer. It should just be no, right? 800-288-9227. But I see that, and then all the newspapers, TV stations, all these nonprofits downtown, press conferences, commentators, probably Dallas Observer, and then I bring it up on the show, and I can't find one person that supports it, right? Hang on, Scott. We'll get to you in just a second. I got a couple good calls here. Mike in Louisville. You're on WBAP. What do you think about saving the downtown Neimans?
Needless markups is $4 billion in debt. Throwing any public money at them is devoid of any logic or common sense. put a plaque on the side of the building that says, hey, this is where this company was at. But aside from that, this is an absolute boondoggle waste of money.
Yeah, and in fact, we will ask for private voluntary donations just for the plaque, in my opinion.
That's right.
But
that's right.
So why do we see governments do this? And this isn't a Dallas thing, Fort Worth does dumb things. Even and where I'm from in Tyler, they do dumb things like this. So what's the deal?
I don't. It's they think this is what the public wants. The public doesn't want anything to do with this. This is not representation of the public. This is It's another waste of taxpayer money.
I know. Oh, where will rich housewives get $200 flip-flops? What are they going to do, Mike? It's terrible. Thank you, sir.
I know. Yep.
All right. Marshall in Bedford, you're on WBAP. What do you think about saving the downtown Neimans?
I can tell you this. I'm 74 years old. I grew up in Dallas, and my grandmother was the head seamstress at the Neiman Marcus store right after World War II until 1970. So basically, it's a relic out of the past. Bus lines people would ride the bus downtown to go shopping there. It's all past. It's a relic. Turn it into condos. Call it the Neiman Marcus condos, and people don't go downtown to shop at Neiman Marcus.
And that's okay. I don't understand this. Why do they say we need to have a vibrant downtown Dallas with city life and restaurants and shops? It's no, we have big buildings where people go to work, and then they all like to get in their cars, and even if they have to wait in traffic, they like to have houses with yards and a swimming pool and a hot tub so they can have a little dog and their kids can have a playground. And you can't have both. You can't live downtown and have that standard of living. So we're going to live in a commuter society, which means we're going to lose some old relics of the past. And I like that. That's the great word for it. Relic, Marshall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, relic. That's what it is. It's because that has no ill will, I'm tempted to say it's obsolete, but no, relic sounds better. There's a hint of reverence there. Scott Baradell's with Idea Grove. Do you have any thoughts on Dallas spending taxpayer money to save Neiman's downtown?
Well, can we just trade it for the Hollywood sign or something in LA? Can we kind of get back for the Luca trade and get something for it?
Oh, why do you got to bring up something so painful as the Luca trade? Well, look, even if it does have value as a landmark, I like what they did with that big Pegasus. They took it off the mobile building, and it's now sitting outside the Omni Hotel. Is just sort of what it is. A monument is what it is. I like Marshall's word relic, but anyway, yeah. Scott, I like the way you put that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's time has come and gone, so time to move on.
All right, Scott Baradell, we have some other things going on. A recent survey showed a majority of Americans don't trust the media to accurately cover things like Doge and Donald Trump. But that kind of echoes what we're seeing here. All of the media is saying the opposite of what every person just called in and said about the downtown Neiman. So I think there's just a big disconnect between media and the average person.
Yeah, it really seems to be the case. What's amazing is, YouGov, which is a very well-respected survey organization, did a survey recently that said 29% have a fair amount or great deal of trust in the media to cover Trump. 44% have a fair amount or great deal of trust in what Trump says about himself. So in other words, the public is much more trusting of Trump and Trump's administration, what comes directly out of their mouths, than of the media covering Trump. And that's kind of scary when we've always counted on the media to kind of hold our leaders in check.
Yeah, well, I think the media totally deserves it. Look how many of the biggest stories they've gotten wrong over the last 5, 6, really our entire lifetime. But boy, they really ramped it up, getting things wrong with the Hunter Biden laptop and then everything wrong about COVID for mass the vaccine. So, I think they've caused this themselves. I don't really feel sorry for the media.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to. I hate to say that as someone who started out my career in journalism, and I'm a big believer in journalistic ethics and at least the goal of objectivity, even though it's difficult. But it really looks like that all got thrown out the window in recent years. It's not just that the media has made mistakes. It just looks like there's an agenda behind these mistakes in many cases.
Yeah, and I've never been one that signed on to the media was ever objective. You go look at what they were reporting in the 60s. They were getting that stuff wrong, not just Gulf of Tonkin, but a lot of other social issues wrong. And then all the way back to Walter Duranty and the lead up to World War II and Stalin's Russia and Hitler getting out of prison. The New York Times has some pretty terrible history of biased reporting going back to their founding.
Yeah, I think it's true. And if you go back, and even the attempt at objective journalism is a relatively recent thing. It used to be that for most of the U.S. history, political parties actually funded and controlled the newspaper. So it was kind of slanted from the start. And then early 20th century, there were attempts to move towards something that could be an objective set of facts that people could get behind. And that seemed to work pretty well until about the 80s, but it's blown all to you-know-what since then.
If you were their consultant, if MSNBC called and they said, Scott Baradell, you run Idea Grove, how do we get our brand back on track?
Well, I think for MSNBC, they're essentially reflecting the challenges the whole Democratic Party has, since they so clearly represent the Democratic Party. And, the Democratic Party has shown itself to be out of touch. My point of view is they kind of need to do what happened when Bill Clinton took over leadership of the Democratic Party and bring them a little back more towards the center, because I just think a lot of people think they're out of touch.
All right, Scott Baradell, where will we find your work outside of WBAP?
Well, my agency is Idea Grove at ideagrove.com.
Thank you very much. Scott Baradell, Idea Grove. Coming up, we'll continue the discussion. Should we use Dallas taxpayer dollars to save the downtown Neiman Marcus flagship? I say no. What say you? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Your response next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If 3 hours isn't enough, or, you're busy from 2 to 5 and you only get to catch bits and pieces of the show when you're in and out of the car, you can catch the whole thing on the podcast. And I don't want to discourage you from listening to the show live, but, if you listen to the podcast, we scrape out most of the commercials, traffic, weather, newscasts, and whatnot. So you could really listen to the James Show in almost half the time, if that's the way you do it. Now, it's not going to be new and fresh and, spur of the moment and live. But look, that's another good option outside the times of 2 to 5 for you to get some of that James Show action. And plus, if I'm going to be doing all this work, someone needs to listen to it. But the big question today is simple. Should we be spending Dallas taxpayer money to save the Neiman Marcus flagship downtown? Almost all the media outlets, the big ones, the legacy media outlets here locally, are in favor of it. Everyone that has called or sent me a message is opposed to it. And I don't know if I'm more surprised at the economics, just the economic ignorance that has people supporting this, or the disconnect between what you see on TV and what the people of Dallas really feel. What do you think? 800-288-9227. This is Cleo in Plano. What do you think about saving the Neimans downtown?
I think they're doing the citizens of Dallas a great disservice. The store is old. No one really goes there anymore. Neiman Marcus's brand itself, especially in this part of the country, is not what it used to be. Back in the 80s, 90s, it was like, oh, go to Neiman Marcus. Now, most people don't even know about it. And I hate to say, Dallas, they've got like a homeless problem down there. The streets are really torn up. There's so much stuff that they should be spending that money on besides that store.
So why is it so popular among the Dallas city leaders and the TV stations and the newspapers? Why does it appear like that's a popular sentiment?
Well, I personally think I guess you could say the newspapers and the media, they're just reparroting what the Dallas City Council is doing. And I think somebody needs to look at it. Maybe they need like a mini Doge to investigate what's going on with that, because why would you want to keep that? What kickback are you getting? Are you expecting to get to keep that?
Right. Does that really help you get reelected? Are your voters going to remember that next time they go to the ballot box? Oh, they saved the Neiman Marcus downtown. Now we can, afford groceries? Now, none of that makes sense. So I don't know. I try and think of, Cleo, is there an example of when there was a public works project that was ever opposed by the newspaper or TV stations? They always want to save that theater or remodel a museum or do a new park or green space or a walking trail from the art district to the Fair Park. There's not a public project they don't love.
No, I've never seen one that they don't do. Like in Plano, one of the ones my favorite is the one for Collin Creek Mall. They've been working on that thing for 6 years now. And as early as last year, they were still working on the underground parking lot. So you would pass by it, and there's like nothing going on there. And it's just a big money pit. And they have the same thing going on with Willow Bend Mall right now. A bunch of developers want to buy it up. And if you go to the city council meeting, their developers expect you to dump all of this money into this existing mall so they can make it better and put condos in and all this other stuff. And I'm like, if it's that great, why don't you spend your own money, developers, and not have the city council talk them into high taxes for us? And that's all they're doing to the people of Dallas. It's just an old relic, a boondoggle. I agree with that earlier guy. Turn it into some condos or something. Just leave it alone. No one goes down there. No one cares about it.
Just do it with someone else's money. Are you coming to our Brian Kilmeade event tomorrow?
I'm probably not. I can't.
Well, get off my phone, Cleo.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I know you would if you could. Thank you very much. It's great. Cleo from Plano. Yeah, we're having the Brian Kilmeade event. That's tomorrow. Community Beer. There's more information at WBAP.com, KLIF.com, communitybeer.com. I'll talk about it again later in the show because I think we're going to interview him tomorrow. Isn't he on tomorrow's James show? Good get by Garrett. Round of applause for Garrett. If he doesn't cancel, you're going to get 3 points for that one, but let's not jump the gun here. A couple of responses here from the Facebook feed. They're all negative. First off, Mike says, isn't the owner of Neiman Marcus rich? Why don't they save it themselves? Yeah, well, let's not demonize someone for being rich, but I do feel that there's quite a bit of overlap between this and like the billionaires who own the NFL franchises and the NBA franchises who get the taxpayers to build them a new stadium. It's like, why are we building a billionaire? Why are we giving a billionaire hundreds of millions of dollars? Is there one person that deserves $100 million of taxpayer money less than the richest guy in town? Oh, my God. And then Dixie says there tends to be a trend toward demonstrating or otherwise organizing to try and prevent businesses from making business decisions. If consumers didn't provide the business revenue to keep a business viable, too bad, so sad. Taxpayer money should not be used for bailouts. That's right. Well, what was the whole stimulus package? What's every stimulus package? Kenny says Neiman markups can move wherever they want. And he has the double entendre markups, Marcus. We got it. Very clever there. Warren Zeider's Relapse Tour is coming to the Pavilion at Toyota Music Factory April 11th. Special guest Tyler Braden. Tickets on sale now, livenation.com, or you can text TOUR to 800-288 for your chance to win a pair of tickets to Warren Zeider's Relapse Tour. Text TOUR to 800-288-9227. Coming up next, President Zelensky is visiting the White House soon. What can we expect from this? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to the big show. If you're just joining us, we've been covering a lot. The biggest story, I think, locally speaking, is there was a press conference this morning where a bunch of Dallas city leaders, the city manager, a couple of the councilmen, the Downtown Dallas Inc. CEO, a bunch of other people were down there making the case to spend your taxpayer dollars to keep the Neiman Marcus flagship store in the same building it's been in since 1907. Now, I was surprised somewhat. I mean, this happens more often than you would think. How every TV station and newspaper in town and most media outlets love the idea of throwing taxpayer money to keep this old store open. But every single person that called in, that emailed, or even sent a Facebook message is against the idea. So that was number one. Number two, of course, the biggest story nationally is what's going on in D.C. with Doge and Elon and Trump and the cuts. And we were making a rich man, poor man comparison there because the criticism, like Elon Musk, it was just discovered within the last week. I think over the weekend is when I saw it, that he had another baby mama. This is either the fourth or fifth. And people were like, well, I don't see how the common flyover country MAGA voter can support this guy when he doesn't share the same family values they claim to support. But having multiple baby mamas isn't something that disconnects you from the common man here in the great country of America. In fact, there's quite a few strange connections between the wealthy and the poor, and we were having fun with that list. And then also, internationally speaking, the biggest story is what's going on with Ukraine and Russia, and the fact that Zelensky's coming to the White House to visit. And after, a contentious start, Trump and Zelensky are both saying maybe not nice things about each other, but at least deferential, like, well, we got to talk this out, or we've got to work out this deal, or I'd be willing to do this if we can get this done. And so we may be seeing like the beginning of the end of the Ukraine war after 3 ugly years and a bunch of lives needlessly lost. It'll be good to see an end to that. So let's get to some of the feedback here. Pretty much all these are from James at WBAP.com. Russell says, in the rich man, poor man front, he says, I could just go all the way across the board. I don't know. But it seems like rich man and poor man are both always trying to figure out how to earn more money. And I'm definitely on the poor end of that spectrum. Yeah, that's one of the tough parts about going through the rich man, poor man list. If too many of these hit you square between the eyes and you're not a rich man, you know what that means. You're one of the poor ones. John in Fort Worth writes in about the Neiman Marcus flagship being possibly saved by taxpayer money. He says, hello, James. Hello, John. I lived in Fort Worth since 1958, which I was born and raised in. Times change and life goes on. There was once a Cox department store, a Leonard's and Monning's department store, as well as Neiman's. All closed. Life goes on. And that's a good attitude to have. Yeah, there used to be a Montgomery Ward's. There used to be a TG&Y. There used to be a Gibson's. There used to be a, what was the Lion? Grocery King? Grocery Lion? Food Line? Food Line. That's what I was trying to think of. That one went away. There used to be all kinds of stores that just disappeared. There used to be a Valley View Mall, but it's gone. So aren't you glad we didn't go throw millions and millions of dollars at Valley View Mall to keep that open? But it's historic. It's part of the fabric. It's vital to the... Oh, shut up. Ron says, on the Neiman Marcus topic, Ron says, I would guess about 1% of voters shop there. The 99% can't afford to shop there. And, that's what makes it such a curious decision. Of all the stores to rush in and defend, you're going to get a high-end luxury store that most of us can't even afford? How is that politically popular? I can understand and how it would be politically popular if you're trying to save, some like the Forest Theater or something that is enjoyed by the common man or is affordable even by the common man. But Neiman's? That's a weird one. Agreed. Other John, I don't know where he's from, but he said, I hadn't shopped at Neiman Marcus since they quit selling buggy whips. Oh, I like that attitude. I think if they want to attract people to downtown Dallas, they would make the Neiman Marcus building a casino. Love the show. Hope it lasts forever. Oh, I do too. The 2 reasons it's not going to last forever. Number 1 is I'm immortal. Number 2, I'm going to retire at some point, or who am I kidding? Probably get fired pretty soon. Any day now. Russell writes in to James at WBAP. And on the Neiman Marcus topic, he says, when people pay taxes normally, that amount is based off of a particular budget that's usually voted on, right? No, we don't vote on the budget. The city council votes on the budget, but they give themselves slush funds and they give themselves wiggle room to do certain things like this. So when they say, well, we're going to dedicate to $18 million to the downtown development district. Well, this will come from that slush fund. They appropriate money, and when they don't specifically say what it's for, they can go back and some bureaucrat decides after the fact, whatever is politically advantageous, we'll throw money at that. Whether it's something to give you good PR in the news, like saving Neiman's, or to repay a donor, or to reward your cronies, like the guy who gets to negotiate the deal, or the landlords who are going to get more money than they otherwise would, whoever owns that building. There's a lot of different interest in there. And no, they are not constrained in the least by the budget that's voted on by the city council. But he goes on to say, I don't think Neiman Marcus was in that budget when everyone voted or was taxed. So at this point, in order to support Neiman Marcus with people's tax money, wouldn't they have to withhold it from another budgeted area, so to speak? I guess what I'm saying, someone would lose money somewhere else in order for taxes to be used on Neiman Marcus. Oh, God, Russell, I wish. Lisa in Midlothian writes about the Ukraine-Russian war with Zelensky coming to visit the White House. She says, I hope this war ends soon and the financial hemorrhaging ends. Maybe some of the lost money can actually be found, but I'm not holding my breath. And if history is any sort of teacher, you're right. Don't hold your breath. I mean, the ugliest thing about war is obviously the destruction, the human suffering, the loss of life, the maiming, the children suffering, starving, famine, disease, pestilence, all that stuff. Right behind it is the economic pain that is, even if you win the war, think of all the trillions that are squandered. Think of all the trillions that are squandered in Afghanistan. Think of all the trillions that are squandered in any of these foreign aid overseas adventures. So nice little round of feedback here on and that's just from the email, james@wbap.com. Oh, look, Cynthia wrote in her son fell prey to one of the email tax preparer things, and if only she had heard the segment with Chris Wilbert, or if only her son had heard that, maybe he could have been saved. That's why you gotta listen to the James Show. To get to some of the feedback here before I get out of the show, I'm not surprised at how many people have a strong opinion on using taxpayer dollars to support the Neiman Marcus flagship downtown. I am sort of surprised that 0% of the response that I got is in favor of keeping it. Now, I know that the WBAP audience kind of skews away from government intervention and tinkering into the economy. You're a little more free market minded, but really zero? I can't get one person to tell me why that's such a good idea, why it's vital for downtown. And, one of the reasons I like to highlight that is because it kind of breaks my heart to think that all of you people who write in, every time you turn on the TV, you have to listen to someone who disagrees with you. You never hear your side. If not for WBAP and maybe KLIF, our sister station over there, you would think that you're the only person who feels this way. And you are engaged, you're informed, you're listening to talk radio, you're listening to WBAP. You're not the problem voter out there. The problem voter out there is the people who don't really pay attention. If they do listen to the radio, they're going to listen to like music. If they do watch TV, they're going to watch something dumb like Keeping Up with the Real Housewives of wherever. And real people, if they just turn on the TV and they see everyone on TV says this is a good idea, they just go along with it. The good news about that is if we can get a handful of outlets to disagree, they'll just go along with that too. But Mary writes into James at WBAP, what about putting the money into the police since the voters wanted more police? Now, I picked this one out. I had a lot more emails, but I want to pick this one out because I'm lukewarm on this one. For a lot of people, that seems like a no-brainer. Why don't you save the money that you were going to spend on the Neiman Marcus flagship and put it toward police? And wouldn't that fix anything? Not necessarily. Growing government is not at all times bad. If you need if you don't have enough courts to process all the criminals in your town, go ahead, open another court, which means you need another judge and another bailiff and the facilities and the electric bill and the building and the lease and whatever. That's growing government, but that's for a function that you and I and everyone agrees government should be doing. I'm not sure, even though the voters went out and they said, well, what we need is 400 more police, or we need this curiously round number of police, and that'll solve crime. And it's not that more police won't have any positive effect, but police don't stop crime. You understand that? Police go and investigate a crime and can track down a criminal and arrest him afterwards, but very, very rarely do they stop a crime. I just don't want you to be disappointed when we hire 400 more police officers and the crime rate either doesn't budge or still goes up. Because what you really need, if you want less crime in any community, the number one determining factor would not be if you have more police, or if you have more green spaces, or if you have more after-school programs, or if you have midnight basketball, or all the other dumb things I've seen cities try. What's the number one thing you need? Dads. That's what it is. That's why some schools are just terrible places where kids go and it's little more than a daycare. They don't learn. A small percentage of them can pass the standardized tests and read it at like a 12th grade level when they graduate. But the schools that do better, it's not because they have metal detectors at their door. It's not because they have clear backpacks that they make their students wear. It's not because of so many of these other programs that they have. It doesn't matter what program you put in place. Nothing can take the spot of a dad. And so when you look at like even within the same community, if you rewind the clock, Thomas Sowell He's an economist now. He's a black guy, and he grew up part of his childhood in Harlem. Now, when he was there in the 40s and 50s, the out-of-wedlock birth rate was much, much lower than it is now. It was way less than 50%. And he talks about how they were even poorer than Harlem is now. Most of them didn't have air conditioning, the standard of living, the average living space, the size of apartments and all is even poorer than it is now. But he said when he was growing up there, he didn't hear gunshots ever. That wasn't a thing even in Harlem. And so what did they have then that they don't have now? Dads, they had drugs back then. Sure, they had drinking back then. They had the mafia. They had the mob. They had all kinds of criminal opportunities. But the big determining factor is not whether or not you're rich or poor, not whether or not you're white or black, not whether or not you're on the right side of the tracks. It's whether or not you have a dad. So this whole idea that all you got to do to solve crime is throw more money at the police department, that might help a little bit, but it's not going to solve the problem. It's just putting salve on the burn that's already there. The real solution to so many of these issues, whether it's poverty, whether it's homelessness, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's violent crime, whether it's, gun crimes, gun control, shooting in the streets, education. So many of these, the root cause of that is a lack of dads. All right, that's going to do it for The James Show. I'm James Parker. If you need to hear more of me, go check out The James Show podcast. If you want to meet us, we're going to be at the Brian Kilmeade event tomorrow, Community Beer. You can check out more info at WBAP.com, but he's going to be out there from 6 to 8. Come on out. Say hi to me, Garrett, a few other people from up here. We'd love to meet you. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.